My name is Teddy Jacobson of Actions by T. I am a pistol smith in Sugar Land, Texas. I am a trigger specialist and work on over 100 different models of handgun actions. This tape will be about the selection of reloading components. I will also tell you the secrets I have learned to make superb ammunition. I have loaded ammunition on single stage and turret presses for 40 years. I will discuss the methods I have learned to make flawless ammunition. I have no agenda or ulterior motive. My only intent is honesty and integrity. I would like you to get a piece of paper and a pen ready, because during the course of this video I will give you phone numbers, and I'd like you to write them down. I'm going to work off a checklist because it's a very complicated subject. We're talking strictly handgun ammunition, and when I separate and deviate a little towards a rifle bullet or rifle ammunition, I will tell you. But to make good handgun ammunition, good carbide dies are essential. There is no point buying steel dies and having to lubricate each case. It will take you longer, it's a mess, then you've got to clean the lubrication off. If you'll follow my procedure and listen to what I say, it'll be well worth its effort. RCBS, Lyman, Redding, or lead dies will work fine. I have no interest in progressive presses, even though they're good. My only concern is making super great quality ammo, and that's it. When making hot self-defense ammo, you must always use new brass. No used brass, because you're going to be at the limits of the pressure curves. Now, Federal, Winchester, Remington, and Starline make good cases. If you want to use nickel, that's your choice. It doesn't really matter as long as there's not a heavy nickel buildup on the cases. Now, I'm going to show you a bullet that I've made, and this is, we're going to get a close-up of this. I'm just trying to hold it where you can see it very clearly. This is a bullet that I've made using a Winchester case, a Winchester silver tip bullet, and a Winchester primer. There's not a scratch on this bullet. It's perfect. No factory bullet even looks this good. And the reason that I use the same case as the bullet and the same primer, in case I want to carry this for self-defense, I don't want to give an attorney, an opposing attorney, any information by looking at my cases or the marks on my on the bullets or whatever. Any ammunition to be used against me in a court of law. Everything on this in this bullet is perfect. Now, I didn't use Winchester powder. In this bullet, I used Vita Vori powder. This bullet here travels at 1,320 feet per second. That's moving. And I'm going to show you how to make ammunition with your dies that can look like this and that would be free of any scratches or marks. Nobody goes to the limit that I do to make a bullet. As I say, I'm going to work off my checklist. Now you can buy prime brass if you like. One of the things I want to show you that's very critical before I go any further. If you load up a bullet, this bullet here was loaded by a customer of mine. It's a 45 ACP bullet, and he swears he's got the best ammo in the world. Now I want you to get a close-up of this primer here. This primer must be seated below the rim of the brass, below the case. That primer must be seated below. Now, how do I know it's below? I'm going to show you how to find out real quick. To check the bullet itself, I use a bullet gauge, or I could use the chamber of the barrel itself from the gun I'm going to shoot it in. This is a bullet gauge, and when I drop it in, it's fine. It is no problem. But I'm going to take a diamond file. This is perfectly flat and straight, and it's a medium diamond file, and I'm going to run it across the back of the case. And I want to see if there's a high primer, is what I'm checking for. I know it's high because I can feel it. It doesn't feel below. It should feel lower than it is. So to prove it, I'm going to run this flat across the primer. So you can see what happens. Okay, now that I've ran it across, I'm going to get another close-up of it, and I'm going to put a light on it. And you can see that part of that primer has just been cut with the file, which proves that that primer is high. What happens in an instance when you pull the trigger on a high primer, instead of exploding the primer, your firing pin will push the primer, and you may have a misfire. That is a high primer. You can see it. Now, you don't have to use diamonds. You can use a regular flat stone. This is just a regular, brand new flat stone. You can't use a used stone because if it's hollowed out in the middle, you'll never get a reading. So it's got to be a brand new flat stone. And you could do the same thing. Run it across. And then now I can show you the stone marks. We'll get a close-up of this too, and you can see the stone marks. That is a high primer. That could cost you your life. It's critical that you clean your primer pockets and seat that primer below the surface of the case. It must be below. If it's high, what happens is it could jam a revolver if it was a rim case, or if it's a semi-auto, it may not go up into the breech face properly. So we're going to take a set of dies, and I'm going to put my book here for a second. This is a set of Lyman dies. I bought these in the either late 60s or early 70s. These are very old chrome-plated Lyman dies, and they work superbly. When you buy carbide dies, the only thing, we'll get a close-up of this, the only thing that's carbide is in the first resizing die, carbide ring. That's it. The other dies are just plain steel. So the only thing that resizes your case, and you got to use clean cases because a dirty case will score. Your cases will get scratched up. The only thing that's carbide is the resizing ring. and it goes in pretty deep. Every manufacturer is a little different. In this first die, the operation would be to resize, take the old primer out, put a new primer in. Well, let's assume you have a new case and you don't have a primer in there. You're using new cases, so there's no problem about cleaning your primer pocket. If you have a case that you want to reload and you want to decap it first, they sell a universal decapping die you can buy that will fit any caliber, and you can just pop out your primers, put it in your tumbler or your vibrator, clean your cases, then use a hand reamer like this to clean your primer pockets. This is a, we'll get a close-up of this here. This is just a L.E. Wilson, Wilson being the company name, primer pocket reamer. It's a very good one. Lyman makes them. RCBS makes them. Most of them pretty good. Now this is the second die. The second die